If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it, if life seems all empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God or man for it, if you'll simply go after that thing you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body or brain can turn you away from that thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, you'll get it. So this is episode 4. Welcome to episode 4 of Krager's Crossing. This is my daughter, Madeline. You might remember her from the end of the first episode where she decided to make a fool of herself and choose the superpower of having teleportation to airports.
I'm hilarious.
And then she would then get on an airplane and fly someplace and then teleport to the next airport, I guess.
Listen.
So you want tele-airportation.
This is why you have no friends.
Tele-airportation. That's Maddie's superpower.
Oh my God.
Anyway, thank you for doing this for me. Mm-hmm. And this episode got completely redone about 5 minutes ago. So here's what's happening. I had it titled, you know how I love to title the episodes, and this one was going to be called Irons in the Fire, okay? And there are some irons in the fire. I started that process. I wanted to start putting down some content along those lines. And what happened was, so how did I even get off on I wanted to do that scene from the verdict? Okay, so here's something we have to see. I'm going to jump around. A prerequisite for this class today might be, and I don't want to tell people to stop watching and go watch something else, but I'm going to tell people to stop watching it. What I want them to do, you're right there. What I want you to do is go watch Paul Newman's closing scene in the verdict, his closing argument. Actually, if you wanted to do yourself a real favor, watch the whole movie, okay? Then come back and join in this conversation.
We'll see you in 3 hours.
Because it's did you not like the movie? It's some
I
of
haven't seen the whole film.
What?
Okay. I've seen the scene though that you're doing.
Yeah, well, see, I'm trying to tell them, don't be lazy. Watch the whole movie. You could get away with going for a second and watching the 3-minute and 30-second scene, and then coming back and joining in this conversation.
But it's hard to know, like, I got the backstory from you, so it's hard to know, like, where everything is coming from in that scene if you haven't seen the film.
See, here's the thing. That's exactly where this conversation is headed. So let me finish my story. This is why the show today changed. It was going to be called, hang on.
He really needs his coffee. It also smells like ass in here. Why? Since you heated that up. I don't know what kind of coffee you're making, but it does not smell nice.
Well, it's got raw honey in it, and that might, I don't know if that smells. The show changed. So it was called Irons in the Fire, and I was going to reach out to some online casting services, and I did that to a certain extent. But then I wanted to do this scene. I was going to put on YouTube, I was going to do a short of this final scene. It's some of Paul Newman's best work, in my opinion, and it's a great scene. It's age appropriate for me. It's just good material. It's well written. It's directed by Sidley Lumet. It's just a great scene, and I'm sure it's a famous audition scene. I mean, I bet if I grew up in the acting world, everyone, this is a very popular monologue. It has to be, because it's just great material. Anyway, I wanted to do it, and so I was just going to do it as a separate, short little film and put it somewhere on YouTube on my page, right? Mm-hmm. Well, as I'm rehearsing for this, I'm learning the material and I'm rehearsing for it. It becomes really apparent. Now, I've done shows before. I have a little bit of acting experience. I've done musical theater mostly in high school, and I did a couple of community theater things since then, but not a lot. But I understand the basic concept of acting, I think. And to do what I was trying to do, the hundreds of ways, seriously, the hundreds of ways I looked at this scene and this material and the words he's saying, and the way that I felt like they needed to be delivered, the pace of it, I really had to just dig into every single word of the scene. And at the beginning, I think you wonder, as an actor, are you going to be the kind of actor that has to rehearse the shit out of everything? Or are you more of a organic, let's just do it? I don't even want to read like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp recently, I read, said that he never ever reads the direction, the stage instructions or the direction of that sort of thing. He blacks it all out. I
don't think anybody reads stage direction.
Well, I mean, but in a screenplay, it tells you, it gives you some idea of
I
where.
feel like, especially when you're on stage, it's going to end up changing. So the thing is, like,
he doesn't want to be tainted with someone else's, i.e., the writer of the material. He doesn't want to be bothered with where they want that to go. He just wants to see the lines and then take that where he wants to go, and that's fine. I'm not saying one way or another on that one. Okay, I'm just saying that's his take on it. But I definitely learned real quick I would be a rehearser. I would be heavy into rehearsal and learning the material so inside and out. So anyway, I decided to change this week's episode because I want you and I to dissect that scene. And the way you and I talk about it, the way you and I talked about it when I was rehearsing it, is the conversation that I want to have on this show, in this episode today, right now. I want that to now be the episode because it really gets to the nuts and bolts of what this whole thing is. Acting, what I'm trying to do, where I'm headed, and what I experienced trying to put this scene together. And I still don't have what I feel is a good finished version of it. So the name of this episode 4, is called Acting. And it's going to be, I want to dig into that scene. And that's why I want you guys to at least go watch the scene. Just go watch the scene, 3 minutes, 31 seconds. One of them is only 2 minutes and 41 seconds. But watch it from the beginning where he's sitting at the table and then he gets up and starts talking. But if you want, if you got some spare time, watch the movie and then come back. We'll still be here. There's nothing about this particular monologue that I couldn't just jump into, head and feet. And I do. I completely relate with Frank Galvin where he is at the end of this movie. He's at the end of his rope. He's absolutely convinced he's lost the case. He's got nothing else. He has nothing to lose. I mean, my God, he was at the judge's house in the rain the night before trying to get out of it. Just try to get out of it, He lost his star witness. It's just he's a mess. And that's one of the things that came up when you were talking about one of my times through it. And I tried it a million different ways, man. I tried looking at the jury. I tried looking just at the camera, making the camera one person that I was talking to. You didn't like that one. And before you got here, I had done some versions where I was looking at the jury, and that felt really right to me. But because of how I had the camera, or wherever the camera was, it just didn't look right when I played it back. So so many different ways I tried it. And at one point, you said, you went, well, it sounds like you're searching for the line. It sounds like you're searching for the dialogue. And it just sounds like you're acting. And I thought about that for a minute. And I
said, I don't believe you.
Yeah, it wasn't, you weren't buying it. So,
which is hard for like muggles, for lack of a better term, to understand that, because they're just like, well, isn't it always isn't there always that sort of, break of the fourth wall where the audience knows that you're acting? And the point of being a good actor, which I find completely interesting, is when you forget that the person that you're watching on stage or on TV, when you forget that they're acting.
For sure.
That's what brings forth emotions when you're watching a film and you start to cry and the person next to you is like, it's a movie. You've completely detached yourself from that. You are feeling this person's pain and that they've done their job correctly.
Agreed. I agree with that. And so it made me think about the performance, and about, first of all, and I didn't want to get defensive.
Or
because
aggressive.
I felt it too. I didn't want to get defensive about my...
You didn't. You took it very well.
Well, but it made me think. I hear what you're saying, but if you watched Newman in this scene...
And we watched it.
And so hang on, let me get there. If you watched him, you've got to know where he is at the end of this movie, in his life, with his law practice, with his clients, with the judge. This has been he's at the end of his rope, man. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning of the scene, he's sitting there, and he's sitting at the table, and he's got a piece of paper, and I'm sure those are his prepared remarks. And I was wrong yesterday, by the way, when I said, I believe he had some prepared remarks. But then when he stands up, he kind of crumbles the paper a little bit, and he sets it down on the table. And then when he starts his first line, he's off. He decided not to go with his prepared remarks. He just went off.
I do notice in his work, and I haven't really been able to pick it apart yet, but in that specific piece of work, there's pauses, but the pauses are filled with something.
Yeah. Yes. And you gotta
and
understand
that's what I'm missing. It doesn't feel like a pause. So where I wanted you to search for the words, he's doing that, but he's also I don't know, there's something else
talking,
there.
Well, dig it, man. He's talking. I gotta get him more comfortable, please. How about right there? He's at some points he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
At some points he realizes and he starts to talk to the jury again. At one point he takes a jab at the judge. Well,
and I pointed that out before I had even seen the scene. I said it sounds like this is his inner monologue. He's thinking out loud. This isn't something that he's rehearsed. This isn't something that he's written down. This is truly what's coming from his mind, out of his mouth. He's lost all care that anyone is listening or watching him.
Agreed. He's
given up.
He's given up. He's lost the case. He's absolutely convinced he's lost the case, and he has nothing to lose. Anything he says now, it doesn't matter. It's the end of his career. It's the end of his practice. He put everything on the line for this, and he's about to lose it all. He's done. He's done. He's suing the Catholic Church of Boston. He's suing the Boston Archdiocese for malpractice, for killing his client, and it's just a great performance. But I heard what you said, and the fact that I had to say, I want you to see this scene, and then I want to explain a little bit of the movie leading into that so that you understand where he's at. Then you can see the dialogue in a different way. You can feel the pace of the dialogue in a different way because he is searching. He is searching. And there have to be those long pauses where he's realizing, oh, I'm still talking in front of people. And he has 2 or 3 of those where he's just kind of, when he first stands up and he crumples the paper and he's talking, I don't believe he knows there's anyone in the room with him. He goes, his first line, so much of the time we're just lost. We say, please, God, tell us what is right. Tell us what is true. He's pleading. He's just done. He's done. The judge screwed him over. His witness screwed him over. People lied when they knew the truth. man, why is it in life doing the right thing costs so much? Why is it come at such a toll? It can cost you everything sometimes. Imagine being a lawyer and having to go to somebody, knock on their door, a nurse, who in the terms of the hierarchy of a hospital, they're like, anyway, they're the working class. Let's just put it that way. They're the working class and the heart and soul of a hospital, if you ask me. But the point is, they're not going to give up their career because somebody is suing their employer, the church or the hospital, which is the church in this case. Who would do that? You went to nursing school.
We're being invaded.
This is the second time I've heard one. You go to nursing school, you accomplish that. And you get a job at a prestigious hospital like that. You're not going to go side with some attorney that wants to sue your employer for killing somebody. You're just not going to, and that's the brick wall he ran into. So the point of this is that where he is just dreadful, just a dreadful place. But he picks it up. Now I want to talk about his scene. I love Paul Newman. This is some of his best work. There's absolutely no denying it. He didn't get the Academy Award. He got nominated for an Academy Award. He didn't get it, and I can see why. He missed an opportunity in one part. Have you ever noticed? You can tell the minute an actor wins the Academy Award. Here's a classic example. Denzel Washington strapped against the wagon wheel in Glory, and they're whipping him. And he's looking at the camera on the other side, and it's pulling away. And
one tear.
That's the Academy Award. Brendan Fraser, when he turns to the camera, and he says, I just want to do one thing right. He didn't, even before the line, when he turned to the camera, wretched face, tears flow. Academy
Anne
Award.
Hathaway, Les Mis, singing "I Dreamed a Dream," looking directly past and it's just her, and it's just her face. That's the thing. That's what we were talking about yesterday too. But we were talking about performers in music. But this is the thing. That whole scene, it is one shot of her just sitting there singing, and it is so amazing. Mm-hmm. And you cry, and you can't stop watching it, and you go, "That's her Academy Award."
Well, when Newman first stands up, the camera's way up here, and it stays up there until he turns and comes to the jury, and then it slowly starts to come down. But this whole scene was done in one single shot. It slowly starts to come down, so that when he's at the end with the prayer part and stuff, it's a close up, and it's just it's.
I feel like he missed a couple opportunities in that monologue as well.
Well, here's what I want. So, first of all,
not that I know anything. I'm an idiot, but just from what
I'm getting your opinion. You're here on this episode because I so value your opinion on this subject matter. I don't value your opinion on any other walk of life, okay? But this one. So, let's just...
That is not true.
So, well, and you clothe me pretty good. So, here's...
If anyone's seen his modeling lately...
Here's the... No one. Here's the deal. In the scene, I'm going to tell you where he misses it. Where he misses an opportunity. Because there's a part in the scene where... he's saying, he turns to the jury and he says, but today you are the law. And the way he does that in the movie is a wasted...
You're like, I don't like it.
I didn't like it. He's talking like this, and he's again, lost in his thoughts.
He threw away that line.
He kind of did. He didn't pace it right. I don't know that he threw it away, because he gets to say it again. He gets to say, you are the law. So he kind of saved it because you get to say it again in the dialogue. But my point is, he's doing all this, and then he turns and he goes, but today you are the law. And he just threw that away, walking over to the jury box. And I deliver that line differently. Now, where he nailed it was on the prayer line where he says, it's a frightened and fervent prayer. That's when the camera's finally close to him. and he nails that. So I believe, of course, even if he would have nailed the turn to the jury, he was up against Ben Kingsley for Gandhi, and that was an entire movie of a masterclass performance in acting. Ben Kingsley didn't miss any opportunities in that performance. So Paul Newman could have hit every mark in the verdict. He wasn't gonna win that year. But he did. It was so close, and I can see why he got nominated. I bet the prayer line is why he got nominated, but the turn to the jury, you are the law, is why he didn't actually win, because he did. He missed a bit of tempo. And see, that's what I want to talk about. The fact that you and I can just talk about that scene like that, because it's a combination of and there's no music playing, right?
No.
During that scene, there's silent.
No score. It's, yeah.
Do you know Bruce Willis is in the gallery? Did you know that Bruce Willis
Oh, no.
is an extra?
No.
Okay. Well, factoid. Anyway, that's what I wanted to do with this episode, was talk about that like this, because you have to be an acting nerd to even look at a scene like that and look at things in terms of the pace of the scene, the delivery of the dialogue. Was there music to help it or not? Was the light? I don't know. There's just a million things going on that you can kind of pick up on and critique as an actor, but you wouldn't in any other way. So that's what I wanted to talk about, was this scene and why it's really been difficult, even though it's material I can relate to. It's a perfect role for me. It's age appropriate and everything else. I'm having a hard time being comfortable with any final version of it. I'm not. Of course, I'm not. I can't film it right because I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a videographer. I put a camera on a tripod and I set up some lights. I try to do the best I can. But
I had something going yesterday before we quit.
Well, let's try it again. I don't want to give up on that.
Because I feel like that's the angle the jury would be looking at you.
Well, they are. They're seated. He's standing and looking kind of down. There's a row of them, and then there's another row of them, and they're just seated. So he is kind of looking down. I did keep one version though of some behind the scenes. I'm going to use for some behind the scenes of me trying to actually get into Frank Galvin's skin, and anyway.
It's hard, and you can't explain it to anybody, and you just eventually you get to a point where you're like, that's right, and you don't know why and you don't know how, but at some point you do it in a way and you're just like, that was it. Well, and until you get to that point, you're pissed.
I was going to cop out and go at one point, well, don't be Frank Galvin. Don't be from Boston. Don't be him. Just be Jim, an attorney, and just do the dialogue. But you can't do that. That you cannot be true to the material and not be Frank Galvin, not experience what he's experiencing and going through what he's going through. I'm telling you, half of that monologue, he's talking to himself. So you can't do that. You can't cheat the material by saying, well, I'm going to do it as me. No, you've got to be Frank Galvin. You've got to be him. He's just down on his luck and awful. I'm not recreating that mood, and it's like you were just saying, if an actor is doing a good job, you forget they're acting and you're just watching Frank Galvin come apart, and
mm-hmm. It's hard. And I think casting directors too, they're there to figure out the vibe. They don't expect you to be reading shit perfectly. I mean, sometimes you do, but they're looking for, do they have the vibe of this character? Are they giving what we need? That's a small part of it, but I don't think, you look at cold reads of scenes that you've seen on TV when they went through the audition, and the way that it is read in the audition is not the way that it came out on film. So
yeah, true, that's true. Even though I feel like I'm just, the auditioner feels like they're putting out their final product. This is I'm doing. I couldn't do better on stage
because what they've handed you haven't had time to sit with. That's what sucks about auditions.
No. I'm talking about this bit that I'm doing. By the time I get this to a point where I'm happy with it and I want to put it out there, it's because I will have done it 100 times. when they hand you something and it's got a sentence of bio for the character, then you don't need to put any more into it. You don't know what has happened to this person leading up to this moment, and so you are just trying to put some life into the dialogue, but you don't have to overthink it. And you're absolutely right, because then when you go, if you get the part and this is actually lines from the material that you're going to be doing, then you'll put that into the context of a scene, and maybe that line is in the middle of a bunch of other flowing dialogue. You have no idea, but it's not. It's different, and I see what you're saying.
That's why I hate auditions.
Well, I almost
because
prefer
I want
that.
to be like I want to be like. I need the whole script. I need to read, and I need it for like a week before I come in and read it.
No. I'm thinking. I disagree. I don't. I personally would. I would love to not take it that. Just give me this and go. What does Bob say? Bob says, "Oh my God, honey, you're sleeping with my best friend," and you have about 2 minutes with that, and you go. Okay, oh my God.
But see, I want to know: does Bob have any kids? Is he divorced? What was his childhood? What was his childhood like?
You're making my point for me. Not every preparation can be me doing Frank Galvin 150 times before I get it right. Sometimes it's just the handing of a piece of paper and the simplicity of looking at it and going, and just in the moment. Well, right here, I'm just seeing, I don't know, whatever the moment is, and you just read it, and you don't have to put all that history into it because you don't know any of that yet. I almost like that better. I think I'd be better at
You aren't able to overthink it.
Yeah, I think I'd be better at cold reads and cold auditions, and I was originally thinking, I don't know, that makes me uncomfortable. Now I'm thinking I would be really good at that. I want to try that.
That's why it's hard to, pick apart scenes that you've seen that already exist that
someone else did.
That you've seen the whole film, the whole script, you've seen that, yeah.
And you're trying to recreate one of Paul Newman's greatest on-screen moments. Yeah, that's
because I'm sure if it wasn't Paul Newman, if it was someone else, they would have read it completely different and would have been cast because they read it completely different and they liked the way that they read it off the page. I mean,
I wonder
Frank Galvin came to life because Paul Newman made him come to life. Paul Newman made him what he was. I'm sure when that script was first written, it didn't look the way that Paul Newman gave that performance.
I wonder if he was supposed. I mean, he's obviously born and raised in Boston. I wonder if he was supposed to have a Boston accent. And I tried to do that scene, making Frank Galvin.
I know. I was like, don't do that.
Well, you try everything, I was thinking of this bit where I start the show, like I was going to start episode 4 with me sitting here with my cell phone. Or no, I'm sorry, it would just be sitting here. And I go, hello, welcome to episode 4. This week we're going to do the entire episode in a British accent. And all of a sudden my phone goes off. So I pick up my phone. And I should have turned this off. Oh. Okay, we're not going to do the show in a British accent because we wouldn't want to have any fun around here, and kind of imply that maybe Michelle or somebody might have texted me and said, "Don't stop what you're not doing the episode in a British accent." So, no, not a good book.
I like that. No, that's funny.
Anyway, maybe next week.
I'm incapable of doing my British accent in front of people, apparently. The last show that I was supposed to do for Artie that I unfortunately had to quit because of my job. But we started doing it, and my British accent, every line that came out, I just kept turning to Becky and being like, why do I sound like that? And of course, Becky's always like, you sound fine. That's me. You sound fine. Like, we're just starting, whatever. And for some reason, I was like, no, I have done this my whole life. I've been waiting for this moment to be able to be British. And then I couldn't. Every line that came out, I was like, I sound like a cartoon character. What is happening?
It's funny. Your mother called me from work yesterday, and apparently Josh speaks fluent Russian. Okay, so my phone goes off. I pick it up. She goes, "You're on." I like the way she qualified. You're on speakerphone right off the bat. She tells me I'm on speakerphone.
Don't swear you're on the air.
So I go, "Okay, I'm on speakerphone." She goes, "John," and they're in Diana's office, I think, and Diana. Well, so she goes, "I want you to speak your Russian for Josh, and I want him to translate it and see what you're really saying." Because for years I have been saying this Russian. You've
had this line.
And so here's where this came from. My buddy Jim in high school was taking Russian, and I thought it was, and he was reading or whatever, and I thought it was beautiful, man. I thought, man, it was just really cool how that language sounds to me. And he goes, I'll teach you some. He goes, I'll teach you, may the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits in Russian. I'll learn that. He came up with the line. Maybe we heard it in something. We were really into Monty Python back then. I don't remember. But anyway, he goes, I'll make that. I'll translate that. I'll figure it all out in Russian, and then I'll teach it to you. So he did. He went and I thought he did. I thought,
oh God.
I thought that that's what that meant. Although over the years, maybe it's morphed.
It's been more of like a party trick where you're just like, because Joe Blow in the middle of the bar isn't going to be like, yeah, actually.
So I said it for him, and he said it didn't translate into anything about armpits or fleas or anything like that. He says something about standing up when other people are sitting down, or being over people or something like that. And it's insulting. He said it was insulting and it was not good, but he could only make out just certain.
How would that be if you found out like 45 years later that it meant like, my name's Jim and I am an asshole and I look like...
I would have loved Jim for doing that. How clever would that have been?
And you're like, I've been saying this for years.
I've been saying this my whole life, and I've just been calling myself a douchebag in Russian, and I bet the Russians just love that. Dig this. He said in movies, when they're speaking Russian, like in American movies, but there's like a Russian storyline, he says that's fake Russian. It's like gibberish. It doesn't translate into anything. They're just, and it doesn't mean anything. Like the Russian I speak, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a hot modge podge. Isn't that interesting? You'd think they would at least be translating the script in. I mean, why not be speaking it in Russian? Why would there be?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason.
Like on stage, you'd go peaches and cream, peaches and cream. The chorus would always go peaches and cream, peaches and cream, peaches and cream, peaches and cream. When you're supposed to be murmuring in the chorus, you're supposed to be saying stuff.
No, I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an old acting thing where the chorus is, they're street people. They're people on the street murmuring, talking,
and one idiot in the audience is like, are they saying peaches and cream? We had a scene in Wrong Window where it was. The audience was looking at whoever was in the apartment that was forward, looking into the apartment on the other side of, the thing. And we were back there, and it was like me, Jackson, and Darlene, and I feel like there was one more of us, but we had to be fake fighting across that. And so you were supposed to kind of be able to hear us talking, but not be able. Well, we would just try to get each other to laugh. So we'd be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but we're supposed to be fighting, and you need to fix whatever is happening with your hair right now. And if you don't start saying your lines better, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Like, that's all that we were. And so we would just. But yeah,
you would be so counterproductive to a method actor. If there's somebody.
We are not method acting over at Artie.
Method acting is my thing or not?
It's not.
I want to give it a shot. I want to try a scene where I really just I really get into the part in a real way. You know how much trouble I have getting these episodes together if I wait till later in the week. The last 2 weeks have been a nightmare. Okay. Anyway, they've been a nightmare. Software issues.
Well, I work on Thursdays, so.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, okay. Shit. Well, we'll figure something out. Anyway, help me film this. Okay? It won't take very long. It's going to have to be a two-parter, though. It's going to have to be. I want some behind the scenes, and then we go outside to the. We could do fake. We could do fake snow. So let's go to Michael's and get a bag of that fake snow, and then we'll put it in a box and we'll get the fan going, and then you just kind of sprinkle it.
No.
And then we'd make a bit out of it. So then I'm trying to be all serious and I'm doing the bit, and all of a sudden I get like fake snow in my. Okay. Anyway,
shit that you come up with.
We could make that look good. Cloudy.
You think?
Yeah, and. I'm going to go to the South Summit. See, I've got to do South African, though. My South African always turns into...
body who drives the taxi over it.
No, it doesn't stay South African. I gotta have to work on that because that these lines I want to do. He's from South Africa. Anyway, I'll work on that.
You notice after what we did when we did Parasite Drag, we were everybody. I was the only one that had a really, really thick accent, and everyone else was supposed to just have a kind of like a little twang. But it was really hard when they were doing scenes with me because mine was so thick. It's hard for them not to say words the way that I'm saying the words. But after about 2 hours, it starts to turn really Australian, like for some reason, and I'd really start to sound like.
Oh no! Now I'm from Britain. Oh God, what's happening right now? I'm trapped on stage with a bad accent.
So many times I'm just looking at Casey like I have no control over what's coming out of my mouth.
What do you think of Napoleon? He's not doing an accent.
I want to know what the decision-making process was with that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Don't the rest of them have French accents?
I believe the rest of the cast is incorporating an accent, but he's decided not to do an accent. And I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if that's going to bother me. It's going to be like an itch I can't scratch the whole movie.
I guess it's really weird. But one of my buddies that went and saw it and came back and was like, was Napoleon like really weird? And I went, yeah. Well, he was a really weird dude.
How do you know that? Did you meet him?
And he goes, no, you read anything, quotes from him or, you read anything, from what I remember in school.
Alexa.
They always said he had short man syndrome, but he just had a really... just shit that he said, quotes that he said, really, he was just an odd duck.
And it wasn't because he was short, it was just...
That might have been part of it, but I don't really know. I haven't delved into the background of Napoleon, but I do remember him.
Next show, can you give us a little bit more on Napoleon? I'd like you to be able to speak a little more intelligently on the subject next time.
Hate
we have you on the show. I don't know. I don't know if I'm questioning the material.
But I haven't seen the film. I have not seen the film.
I'm just questioning the fact that he's the only cast member that chose not to do an accent, and we'll see.
I want to trust Joaquin Phoenix enough to believe that there's a good reason why he didn't do an accent.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure as an actor, and as we're sitting here picking apart a Paul Newman scene, he's got a very valid actor's reason why he's doing that, and maybe it works. It's like maybe he's got kind of a provincial accent going that's working for the character. Like Katharine Hepburn, she always talked like she had some sort of accent, and she wasn't. She was, where was she from? The Upper East Side, Boston? I don't know, but she wasn't European. You know what I'm saying? But she talked kind of like, you're either European or from Massachusetts.
I think that was just the time, though, because all the guys were like, here, see? Like...
yeah, see?
What? How are you getting the taxi cab? I don't know.
My Tommy gun. You were called a dame. You were called a dame back then. Hey, hot dame.
I've been watching this. It's such a bad fucking show. It's called Too Hot to Handle on Netflix, and it's where they send all these like fucking models to an island in a villa, and they all have to like try and date each other or whatever. But I've been watching the UK version, and everything is I'm fuming. I'm so fuming. And then they always call the girls the birds. He's like, the birds are mad about something, but she'll go. He's got good banter. We've got a really good chat. The chat's good. We've got good banter. I'm fuming. Like, oh, I can't.
I am not going to watch that, but that's
Don't.
Good stuff. That's funny.
It's so bad. It's a really good way to, like, watch hot people just be fucking stupid.
Why would you want to watch that?
It's so, because it's good TV. I don't know.
What?
It's interesting to watch. And listening to them talk, that's why I watch the UK version, or maybe that's just Love Island. Maybe Too Hot to Handle is the one where they bring people in from all different places. But I really don't want to talk to him right now. I'm fuming. Got to make a cheese toasty. That's what they call grilled cheeses.
A cheese toasty.
It's like, I'm going to go make a cheese toasty. I can't even look at him right now. It's hours,
Well,
and you're
that
like,
pisses me off because I go to a lot of trouble to put on some good, savvy entertainment, and more people watch that shit than watch this, and it just hurts my feelings, man.
maybe you should start doing an accent. I don't know.
I remember I was going to do the bit. I was going to start, and then your mother was going to call in and go, "You're not doing a British accent for the entire episode."
Yeah.
I tell you what, next week, you know what? I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to do all next week in a Russian accent. I think I'm a lot like my dad. He used all the emotions, not just the popular ones. That's why if I had an emotional support dog, I think I'd have it support anger. Plus, I'd name it Stay. My dad said some great stuff like, I could be the last guy on earth and I'd have to wait for somebody to turn left in front of me. Remember something, he'd do something and he'd go, shit and two's eight. Shit and two's eight. Shit and two is eight. I don't get that. I'm not sure I ever got the nads to ask him. Maybe he had a bad experience with a tape measure. When this is over, can I get like a hug from you or something? Jim Krager, actor. We grow tired of hearing people lie. And after a time, we become dead. You are the law. If we are to have faith in justice, we need not only to believe in ourselves and act with justice. End scene. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Fade to black. Fade to black.